Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to one more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. And this week, joining us from the Netherlands is Priyanka Gorai. Hi, Priyanka. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Vasco. Thank you.
So it's a pleasure to have you. Priyanka started her journey as a software test engineer in 2014 and has more than 7 years of experience in the software industry. Priyanka was thrilled by the concept of servant leadership in agile software development and started supporting her team and then became a full-time Scrum Master. Of course, we'll hear all about that today. She is very passionate about agile development and wants to share that passion with others. And she's also learned a very important Scrum Master lesson, I think, that while improving individuals and teams, one can improve oneself, which is definitely true and felt by all Scrum Masters that have been here on the podcast, at least. So Priyanka, that was a short intro. Tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you end up becoming a Scrum Master?
Yeah, sure. So I first time joined a Scrum team in 2019 after moving to the Netherlands. Before moving to Netherlands, I was working as a software test engineer in India and in Dubai, but mostly in a waterfall model. So after moving to Netherlands, when I joined the Scrum team, I was really surprised. Like, wow, this is a nice way of working because I can see those concept of inspect and adapt where in every 2 weeks, all the team members used to sit together and discuss what went well, what went wrong, and how can we improve it. And that is something I really missed in my initial career days, in initial 5 years. And I can see how things went. I mean, we discussed the things, we took the positive side, we helped each other and also appreciated each other in those retrospective meetings. And not only about retrospectives, but how the team was working together, helping each other, understanding each other with a positive attitude. And that really forced me to read more about Scrum. And then I started learning more things. I opted for a certification. Just after a month, I expressed my opinion to my manager, who was also the Scrum Master, coincidentally, so that I would like to grow into this role. I would like to be like him because the way he was handling the team, he was negotiating, he was listening to people. It really is a nice way. And then I said, yeah, I would like to be like you. He said, okay. Then he started giving me few chances. So in his absence, sometimes I used to be there with the team, hosting or facilitating the meetings. And initially I used to be very much nervous. I need to write things and then read them. Yeah, so that's how it started. But then the time came when he went on holiday for a few weeks, and I need to do all the tasks he used to do as a Scrum Master. And I think I really did it very well because once he was back, he got the feedback from the PO and the team members that Priyanka can become a good Scrum Master. So yeah, that's how it all started. And suddenly he came to me and said, do you want to become one? And I said, yes, why not? That's how, I mean, but there were a few conditions definitely applied that I cannot leave my then role of a software test engineer. So I need to divide my time in 50-50% for both the roles, like 50% as a test engineer and 50% as a Scrum Master in the same team. I was so eager to do that. That I said, yes, it's okay. And also he made it clear that it is not a promotion. You'll not get any hike, nothing. That's just set of new responsibilities. And I was okay for it. I thought that's a chance. Let's give a try. It worked well, and I really liked this role so much that this year starting, I found a full-time Scrum Master role, and I became a full-time Scrum Master finally.
Absolutely. It's a great story, an inspiring story. From what you described, you were really touched and moved by the different way of working, right?
Yes.
Coming from that waterfall background and seeing how things could be. Of course, not everything is a bed of roses in the Scrum Master world, and today's Fail Monday, so we talk about the failure here on the podcast. And we want you to tell us that story, Priyanka. Investigate the takeaways and the learnings and the conclusions later, but walk us through that story of a difficult moment you had as a Scrum Master.
Yeah, so I also need to go back to my initial days of becoming Scrum Master. So, as I shared, I became a Scrum Master, but not a full time one. So, I was a 50% test engineer and 50% Scrum Master in the same team. And when the announcement was made, that was not taken in a positive way by all the team members. For example, for one of the team member, it was like, okay, she got something, she is a new person, she joined recently and she got another role, and his behavior changed, and that made my life difficult as a scrum master and as a team member, because he totally changed. He started taking things very negatively, and if I suggest something, he won't agree with that. Our conversation often went into conflicts and then fights. That was really difficult. So I think that was one of my initial failures, because at that moment I was not aware how to handle that situation. So I try to ignore those situations sometimes, and sometimes, yeah, try to justify myself. But now if I look back, I think what would have helped me at that moment is by having conversation, by taking help from some coaching techniques, some coaching models. For example, Grow or Oscar, these models, this will help. I mean, this normally helps to have some conversation in this kind of difficult situation. So I think it would have taken multiple sessions with that person, but definitely the situation would have improved if I look back. But yeah, that was a difficult journey initially, when everyone is not accepting you as a scrum master, and then you have to wear different hat at the same time, because you are a part of the team, a team member working on those stories, and then again you are a scrum master as well. You need to take some decisions and help the team remove the impediments. So that was a really difficult part for me, combining both roles together.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see the conflict arising, right? Because at some point, that animosity from that team member can also start affecting your role as a software tester, right? It's no longer only as the new Scrum Master, but also what you were already doing in that team. As you look back, and if you could turn the clock back in time and get back to that initial few days as a Scrum Master, what would you have done differently?
I would have started this conversation with a different team member, what I practice now. I regularly have conversation with my team members and take feedbacks from them, and try to help them, and have a constructive conversation every time. That is something which is required as a scrum master. You need to talk to them and discuss things and resolve them. Communication is the key here, I feel. So you need to communicate, you need to learn and how to listen to people. So listening and communication, both the things. Yeah.
One of the things that comes to mind from that listening and communicating with team members is also to open the conversation for whatever might be the source of that criticism, right? Because sometimes when team members react negatively or critically, they might actually have a good reason, but they don't explain the reason, right? So like opening up and asking, okay, so I heard this and I'm not sure I understand why that is important for you. Could you explain what's the cause of that criticism? Because I don't see the reason why that's a problem, right? Like, and opening that conversation is also about giving the team members the opportunity to start shaping how we work together, right? Because it's not just us telling them, here's how we work, but it's also about them telling us, here's what's working for me, here's what's not working for me, here's what I'm worried about, etc. So definitely that tip is invaluable, of having those one-on-one conversations to help form a better relationship with team members.
Exactly, and also to help them to understand the role of a scrum master, of a team member. That's something I think which was missing at that moment. I should have discussed it and clarified the role and set a boundary for my tester role and my scrum master role, which was really difficult at that moment. But yeah, that is something can be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And that boundary is really important, because we are talking about different things when we wear the Scrum Master hat versus tester, developer, product, or whatever that might be. Thank you for sharing that, Priyanka.
Thank you, Vasco.
Monday is about what we learn from our obstacles and our failures. But tomorrow is Team Tuesday here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. We explore teams and their journeys, the habits they develop that threaten their performance, how each of our guests helped their teams evolve, and the one key lesson they learned from that experience. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.